Hello, this is Rabbi Dr. Juan Marcos Berjuana Gutierrez, and we're continuing with our study of Jewish perspectives on the afterlife. And so far, we've covered the topic of Sheol rather extensively. We've looked at a lot of biblical passages in the Tanakh, in the Hebrew Bible, that have discussed the characteristics of Sheol, descriptions that are given to it, sometimes contradictory or at least somewhat confusing in terms of how they all work together. And then we sort of switched directions because we encountered the passage of the Witch of Endor and the issue of necromancy or necromancia. And we talked about the book of Isaiah because there was also a reference to necromancy there. And I mentioned the Ramban. Ramban is an acronym for Rabbi Moses ben Nachman, Nachmanides. And so far, for the most part, I haven't really referenced any biblical commentators, the Meforshim of the medieval period Jewish commentators, because I wanted to look at sort of the historical development of this idea of Sheol and death and so forth. But since I referenced him, I referred to him, I thought it was important to maybe give a little bit more explanation regarding some of the comments that I made. The Ramban, as I mentioned with an N, followed the Rambam. The Rambam was Rabbi Moses ben Maimon, the Rambam Maimonides, and we have Rabbi Moses ben Nachman, Nachmanides, or the Ramban. So you have an M and an N for those of you who aren't familiar. And there was a contrast between these two individuals because the Rambam was the great rationalist. He was an Aristotelian in terms of his philosophical perspectives. He was a great halachist. He was a great codifier of Jewish law. But he was very philosophically inclined. And so his perspectives on the supernatural, we might say, were very different. And so the Ramban, Rabbi Moses ben Nachman, was the opposite. He was very much influenced by Kabbalah. He was from the northeastern reaches of Spain, or what we would call Spain today. And he was influenced by the introduction of Kabbalah from France. And his perspectives were of interest to this particular course because he does make reference, as I mentioned, to necromancy. So we want to look at that and sort of try to understand a little bit of what he was trying to communicate. So there's a key passage in which Nachmanides, or the Rambam, argued that rationalism could be disregarded or dismissed on the evidence of necromancy. That's sort of an interesting approach if you think about it. But the fact that Nachmanides viewed necromancy as a basis for seeing rationalism as futile opposed the views of Maimonides, who viewed sorcery and witchcraft as lies and falsehood. So Maimonides, or the Rambam, looked at sorcery and necromancy, all the different variations of this, as basically trickery. It was essentially sleight of hand. There wasn't anything substantive to it. And interestingly, I think in some sense the ability of the Witch of Endor to draw out or call up Samuel has bothered people. Certainly not just in the Jewish perspective, but certainly, as I've learned, in Christian perspectives. And so I think in many ways that might have presented itself as one issue to consider. Now, whatever the case, we see here that Nachmanides was very much against Aristotelianism because he felt that it undermined this idea of the supernatural. And so we continue here. If the section says Rabbi Moses ben Nachman was also an ardent believer in hierognomy and chiromancy, which he described as ancient and authentic sciences. So you can see sort of the tendency of the Ramban to go toward these what we might call pseudosciences, or depending on people's perspectives, obviously. And so here we have the famous quote that I was referring to. So Rabbi Moses ben Nachman stated the following. He says, "This would be known with spirits through science of necromancy, Chochmat ha-negromancia, and it would also be known to the minds through the clues of the Torah, to those who understand their secrets. And I cannot explain further because we would have to shut up the mouth of those who pretend to be wise about nature, emulating the Greek, that is Aristotle, who rejected everything that he could not perceive with the senses. And haughtily, he and his evil disciples thought that everything that he did not grasp with his reason is untrue. That is, that everything he did not grasp with his reason was untrue." Now, the idea here is also expanded upon if we look a little bit further down, where the Ramban, in his commentary, refers to the science of magic and divination, as does his comments on Genesis chapter 4, verse 22, when he talks about the book of the use of demons. Now, his whole purpose in doing that is not to advocate for that. It's to show that there is one way to know God, that is through what is prescribed for Israel, the Torah. This is what has been revealed at Mount Sinai, at Har Sinai. But there are other forms that are available. Now, those are not sanctioned by the Torah. They're not permissible to the people of Israel, but they're still there. And what he's trying to show, in essence, is that these two forms, one that is prohibited to Israel and one that is, accessible, if you will, illegally, both testify to the existence of the supernatural and to the existence of God. And if you think about it in this one sense, when you look at the magicians of Egypt, the Talmud says that 10 portions were given of sorcery to the world, and Egypt took 9 of them. This was the bastion of sorcery. And of course, when Moses goes into Egypt to confront Pharaoh, the Egyptian magicians or sorcerers are able to perform certain of the makot, of the plagues. But in any case, I thought it was interesting to be able to provide this because this issue of the supernatural and the rational has been at odds to a certain extent. I mean, I think for the most part, most of Jewish history has obviously embraced the supernatural, but there have been times when the philosophical challenges to that or questions regarding that have been made. In any case, we'll continue with the rest of the course. I just wanted to take sort of that side bar and talk about that a little bit, and then you have some of the sources here that are mentioned. And then we'll continue with our trek by looking at other passages that talk about death and the ideas that will continue to arise as we sort of begin to switch focus and look at other passages in the letter prophets or some of the writings, the Ketuvim, and then as we make our way through other writings outside of the Tanakh, in the Pseudepigrapha, Apocrypha, and of course the Dead Sea Scrolls, and etc.